On Six Music with We All Need and Keep It Real, and all the numbers from tonight's session are taken from the new album. It all comes down to this, and Jez, you described this as you removing the safety net. Just tell us about that process and the decision to do that as well.
We'd made a lot of things different on this album. We decided to use a producer, which we haven't done since for a long time. We've produced ourselves, so that made it different. We also stripped back to just the three of us to be in the studio, and it sounds a bit like our earlier stuff, how we sort of wrote them. We just wrote the tunes in the rehearsal room, and then you'd go in the studio with the producer. So that was one change.
And the producer in question is Dan Carey.
The producer was the wonderful Dan Carey, who was, it's like another member of the band, really. He's such a genius.
Martin was telling a story earlier about, not on air, obviously, you didn't miss everybody, in the preparation time, about how he owes you a bit of a debt, though, doesn't he, Dan, in terms of what it's inspired him to get going in the first place?
Yeah, that's right. It turns out when we asked him to do a remix of a tune for a remix album of ours a few years ago, we asked him to write a little bit about what it was like working on an ACR tune, and he told us this story about when he first moved to Manchester as a student, and he saw a poster for ACR for a remix of Shack Up by Norman Cook, and he thought, I'll have to investigate that. Went to Piccadilly Records, bought the record, and really got into remixing and music through that. Went out and bought his first sampler and stuff. So he said working with us was like coming full circle, really.
And it's interesting you mentioned the space in which you made the record as well, and I've seen there's a very good almost surrealist promotional video about it, and it looks delightfully messy. It's fair to say there are wires everywhere. I don't think you could fit anything else apart from yourselves and the instruments in there.
It would have failed the BBC health and safety check, definitely.
Just to say that SO3, obviously, there's plenty of room to move around the instruments. But that's part of. Is that stuff he's collected? Is that stuff he hadn't tidied up?
Stuff he's collected over the years. I think he's got the most vintage pedals that I've ever seen. Underneath the desk, there's like just an array of these. Old 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, really great pedals. And so, we didn't have to take that much equipment, really. He had it all there. The process of working with him as well. What did he do, and what did he do with you, and what did he tell you to do?
The process, I thought, was really easy with Dan, because basically we gave him the demos. He loved the demos, really liked the demos, so we wanted us to stay as close as possible to the demos. And as we played them, he was just like being that sonic Salvador Dali person, of making it into something new as we were sort of inventing it with him. We'd already got the framework, and he just added lots of nice shades to it that was already there. He didn't want it to change too much.
He put the darkness back into a certain ratio, really, the sort of darkness that we might have lost a little bit with age. And smoothed out a little bit too much, like we all do as we get older.
My darkness is still there, by the way, Martin.
The main thing that Dan did was he'd take the basics of the tune and pump some etherealness into it and make it sound really moody,
And it continues what has been a really good run of records. Not they weren't before, but the return, if you like, and the records since then have been really good. And I get the impression that, not rushing you in any way, that you're keen to get on with it. You've got something good going on here at the moment.
Sounds funny now.
It's called life.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're not getting any younger, as Martin always says. We've a lot of people say we've hit this great purple patch, but with Ratio, it's all about just keep going. Since COVID, when COVID happened, we kind of rallied round each other and closed ranks, and we got into the studio, our mate Christoph's studio, and we just started work then. We still had Dee with us then. She was still very much part of what was going on, and we just kind of closed ranks on pulling it together. And ever since then, we've just gone through, and we've produced, but probably by accident, no major plan, a great trilogy of albums and a trilogy of EPs in 3 years.
Which is, gives you
46
loads. Sorry, go ahead.
46 years we've been going a long time, but we did have a couple of breaks in that 46 years. I think that really does help. The fact that we went away for quite a while and then came back and it was like fresh to us. And I think
12 years that was, Jez.
Whatever, yeah. I try not to mention it, Don. They'll say, what were you doing? Well, we were resting, so we come back with and all the energy we've got now is, I think it's due to the fact that we had a break for quite a while and you're fresh to it again.
What's the next tune you'd like to play tonight?
This tune's called Dorothy Says. It closes the album.